Hello, good morning everyone. How is everybody doing? This is a Saturday, yay! And I have got such a fun topic for us for day 3 of this business and leadership series that I've been doing for workshops. And today we are going to talk about untangling all of your money blocks, money obstacles, things that are preventing you from receiving everything that you desire. So my name is Theogenosis, and I am a business and mindset coach for spiritual entrepreneurs. And I love working with women who are really seeking to get to that next level, to step into their zone of genius, so to speak, or expand it and just totally create an impact in the world. My favorite clients are visionaries. They are women that are ready to take charge and just absolutely shift their lives and the lives of those around them. So, and I know that's such a vast topic, but that is absolutely who I am passionate about working with. So today we are bringing in day 3 of this series. Hi, Becky. I'm so glad you're here. And I am super excited because this is a topic, much like the topics we've covered the last 2 days. We talked about stepping into your divine feminine leadership on day 1, and yesterday we talked about how to bring some rituals into your business to increase your abundance and the flow of energetic money. And today we're just going to finish the topic with, how to untangle all of those money mindset blocks that we have. Because so often, and let me know if you can relate to this, so often we think, I'm doing this, I'm doing all the things, I'm showing up, I'm doing lives, I'm doing my affirmations, I'm writing in my journal, and I still am not receiving the money. Where's the money? Where's the clients? It's like, come on, I need them today. And being an online entrepreneur myself, I've gone this journey. I've had these struggles. I've said these things to my coaches. And so I totally relate to you where you are. The topic today is one, and again, as I was kind of writing out my notes, it's like, oh my gosh, I could be doing 5 different workshops on this, or I could talk on this for hours. And what has actually come out of these last few days of doing workshops is I've actually created a brand new program that I'll talk about later on. It's going to be, I'm super excited about it. So today, what I want to talk about, and let me just go to my notes because I love to have notes. I can get off on tangents and I want to try to stay on topic, make this worthwhile for you, give you some takeaway action items that you can implement right away. That's the focus of, and the purpose and the reason why I love to do these workshops. By all means, if you're jumping on, please let me know in the comments, what are some of your biggest money blocks? What is the current challenge that you have in your business attracting the clients or growing your bank account, or just where do you find those challenges? Because ironically, we actually already know what is holding us back. Hi, Lynn. So for those of you jumping on, let me know where you're kind of feeling stuck, what your current financial challenges are, and if you have an inkling of an idea as to what is causing it. Because I will go back, look at the comments, and we can have this conversation, and I can perhaps give you some specific ideas on how to make an immediate shift. I want to go back. This is one area that I have found absolutely fascinating as I have gone and done my own personal work, but also as I have created this new program. And one is, I really want to go back to, where did we get some of these ideas about money that we have? Where did we come up with those limiting beliefs and those stories? So I'm going to take you on a little history trip, and we're going to go back generations. And we're going to go back to the days when, let's say, people were living in the wild, wild west. And there was no official form of currency. Everything was traded in the forms of, I'll give you 2 pigs if you give me some crops. You know, that's where the values started way back when. But moving forward a little bit, it also was the time when the men and the female, the masculine and the female roles were really very clearly designed or set out. The man was the one that worked in the field, that handled the money, that made the money, that sold the crops, that sold the milk, that sold the cattle. And the woman very clearly stayed at home, took care of the kids, made the meals, and tended to the house. So there was way back in that time frame, and you can go back further and further, but I'm just going to kind of start there and move forward, is where we really started with this paradigm. Good morning, Carrie. We started back in that era where there was these clearly defined roles. And as the world evolved and developed and systems came into play, it really was from a masculine perspective. The men were the ones that were, running the city councils. The men were the ones that were setting the laws. The men were the ones that were doing the work. And the females very much took this backward position, backward role, and stayed in the shadows, really. And then what evolved is the men wrote the Constitution. The men became the judges. And you can look at both the politics as well as the money side of our historical backgrounds, and you can see where over generation after generation after generation, women were not really brought up or given the power or the information or the education of handling the money. So fast forward to our great-grandparents, for example, and whether they immigrated from another country or were born here in the United States, there was a depression. There was always this emphasis on money and lack. There was a very clear class division of who lived in the house on the hill, who had the fancy clothes, who drove the horse and carriage, and who was walking, and who was mending clothes and passing them on down to children. There was very much a dividing line. And over the years, things have gotten blurred. And that is where the divine feminine has slowly started to share her voice. Well, the last 10 years has been something that has so totally impacted us, maybe even 20 years. My dates probably aren't right for this, but that's the specific dates are not what's going to give you the points here. But we were, let's go back to our great-grandparents. Our great-grandmothers probably were not working. And at the time, it was still that paradigm, that's still that plan of the, women stayed home and the men went to work. It's only in probably the last 2 decades that women really started having a place in the work force, that women really started saying, I want to have a say in what we're doing with our money. How many of you know, and this was something that when I was really doing some research on this in my own work, that I recognized the fact that, men were so involved in their marital financial packages that the women 9 times out of 10 were not even on checking accounts. The women had no clue what the financial situation was. And then the husband would die and she literally was clueless. Did they have money? Did they not have money? Were they protected? And lots of times they had to sell things because they really did not know what their financial structure was. So those are all the things that we are in our blueprints. They're in our history. They're in our generational lines. And those are things that get carried forward and forward and forward in words, in actions, in behaviors, in mindsets. And so when we were growing up as little girls, we were again told, you need to be quiet, you need to not make a scene, and we also maybe heard our parents talk about money, but chances are they didn't necessarily educate us on money. It was always like this taboo subject. We just knew that we couldn't do what our friends were doing because apparently we didn't have money. So we grew up, not through any fault of our parents, but just what we were surrounded with in our family structures and our caregivers with these concepts of money. And money became something that was a need. Money became something that was evil. Money became something we don't talk about. And it still was, even as far as when we were growing up, money was not something that women worried about. Thankfully, things have changed. And we are able to go forward not only and correct and make changes for us, which actually goes back in generations and corrects some of those misconceived notions or actions or behaviors. But we're able to now share with our children, boys and girls, that we are raising different concepts on money. And that is what is so exciting about us as women, as taking on this entrepreneurial role and showing up and understanding that we are worthy of receiving all that we desire. We can have as many millions of dollars as we want in our bank accounts, and showing our children that it's okay. It's okay to be different. You don't need to go to college and get a job and stay in that job forever and never leave the company. I mean, you can see how over the last 10 to 20 years, that whole concept has also been shifting. Gone are the times now. I mean, if you have children in their 30s, gone are the times where they have a job and they're going to stay with that company forever and ever and ever, much like maybe your husband or grandparents did. We just don't do that anymore. And that is so freeing. That is so amazing. But these are where some of these concepts come up from. And I just wanted to point that out because I believe as we're on our personal journey, oftentimes we want to know the how. I know that's one of my things. That's, how do I do this? Or how did that happen? Or I want to know. Tell me where this came from so I can make the change. And the reality is we don't necessarily need to know the how. But I feel it's important to understand where some of this came from, because it's so quick for us to self-judge and say, oh, I made a bad decision on money. Maybe I don't deserve to have more money because I might make that same bad decision. For me, and what I like to work with my clients on, it's recognizing, oh, there's a limiting belief. Thank you, limiting belief, for keeping me safe, for getting me where I am today. And I value the fact that I made a decision based on the information I had 10 years ago, but I don't need to live with that guilt and shame of that money decision. And that was something that plagued me for many, many, many years. I felt that because I made what I perceived as the right decision at the right time, moving 10 years forward, I really started to self-judge myself and say, oh, well, I could have been like this. Maybe I don't deserve to have more money. And believe it or not, that was something that was an underlying subconscious thought. And as with shifting any pattern, whether it be to attract more love, to attract more wealth, to attract more clients, to be able to pay off your debts, whatever it is you desire, to travel more, to have the freedom, it really is our vibration. It's how we show up, and it's us recognizing the limiting beliefs and those blocks that are holding us back. Not for the purpose of shaming ourselves, just for the purpose of being able to recognize it. I envision this. It's like I recognize it, I look at it and go, thank you very much, and then I recycle it. It's gone. It's out of my subconscious brain. If I don't look at some of these things and don't understand the patterns, then it still kind of keeps going round and round, and my fear daggers will show up and trigger me to stop and not do something. Oh my gosh, that's something new. I've never done that before. What if I fail? And so then we tend to not move forward. And if you're not happy where you currently are, in order to create a change, you're going to have to do something different. So that's kind of just a very interesting, I find interesting perspective on looking back on the fact that a lot of our money mindsets, a lot of our stories that we told, we absorbed as little children, being in family environments, being in family parties and surroundings and cultural things. For those of you that grew up in different countries or with a strong cultural background, again, there's a big dynamic on the masculine and feminine. One of the things that I always found interesting too was this concept of women going through high school, going right into college, and it was very interesting because there was this underlying current of the reason the women were going to college was to get a degree, but it was to come out of college married. It was to find your husband. It's like, oh my gosh, and then we became wives and we did we had the kids and we took care of the household and we supported our husband. We supported him going off and making the money. And again, we took a back step. We kind of stayed in the shadows. It was all about him and his career. If he wanted to move, we moved. If he wanted to go to this event, we went to this event. It was always about supporting the husband to make the money. And it was never about the female in the relationship being a partner. There was always this disparity. There was always this unbalance. So of course we've taken on some of that, and whether it be with our social circles or again from our parents, that's what we took on. And the other thing that has been such a shift that has been occurring is if you did go to college and you got a degree and you became successful in a career, so let's say as a corporate lawyer, or maybe you became a doctor and you were the one that was earning more of the money, again, in the dynamics of relationships, that was something that was unheard of, that the woman made more money than the man. It was like, oh my gosh, things have really, really started shifting. And where this has really come to be a prominent factor is the fact that women are realizing that if they're in a marriage, they're in a relationship, if they're in a career that they no longer, that is not lighting them up, they recognize the fact that they can get divorced. They can leave the relationship. And with work, it's scary. It's absolutely scary. This is exactly what I did. But I trusted that this was the right thing to do for myself and my kids. I left. And so women are now being recognized as the sole proprietor of their business, but more than that, the sole earner in the household. Women are taking 1 and 2 jobs to be able to provide for their kids. Gone are the times where it's only the man, or you better get married so that you have, a male figure in the household who's bringing in the money. We now recognize the fact that we can show up as ourselves, as our true defined feminine leaders, lead ourselves through, show up, work, bring the money in, and if we find ourselves in another relationship, we're more of a partner. It's more of a partnership. And that is truly what the divine feminine leader is being called to do. Show up, speak up, be bold, be brave. Okay, so for those of you jumping on, I'd love to know what are your current challenges as far as abundance or finances in your personal life as well as in your business. Because today we're talking about untangling some of those money beliefs. And what I've really just been sharing for the first few minutes here is where we may have adopted some of those beliefs, where they came from our generations prior to us, and recognizing that it doesn't make us, less than it for not knowing about our finances in our relationships, in our marriages, or know anything about finances. It's just the fact that we were not necessarily taught anything by our parents or in the schools. The school systems nowadays still do not teach anything about finances and budget and money to kids. It's like appalling that it's not a required class in high school. That's a whole nother soapbox for me. But if our parents aren't teaching us anything and the school system's not teaching us anything, and money is something that we really just don't talk about, that's why we're all sort of fumbling around trying to figure this out. And our kids are the ones that are going to be leading us. And they need to know. They need to have good financial backgrounds or foundations and understand the concept of money. So our blueprints, we can easily untangle them. We can untangle them by having conversations like this. We can untangle them by attending workshops. We can untangle them by in your marriage or your partnership or with your friends or as a employee with a company, standing up for ourselves, asking about the money, asking about how can I promote myself? How can I increase my career? We can untangle a lot of our money mindsets, which again are generational in nature, and go back and heal the wounds from our ancestors by showing up today and taking charge and making a change and severing all of that thought process that no longer works in today's world. So one of the things that I find we do, and this is, a collective we, is, and male and female, is we use money as an excuse. So we use money as an excuse in a variety of different ways. And again, a lot of this is just subconscious, but we do it. We use money as an excuse for not doing something. Oh, I really want to take a dance class, but I don't have the money. I really want to take my girlfriend out to dinner for Valentine's Day, but I don't have the money. I want to take my family on a trip. I would love to take them on a trip, but I don't have the money. I would love to take 2 weeks off from my job, but then I don't have vacation pay, so I'm not going to have the money. So that's sort of how we use it to hold ourselves back, to keep us in lack. We use it the other way. It's like maybe you receive an inheritance, or even let's just say something most of us get is we get a tax refund, income tax refund. We use that money and we disrespect it. It's like, oh, I've got an extra $800 here. I'm just going to go spend it on a couch. I'm going to go spend it on a trip. I've got extra money. I'm going to, buy a purse that is way outside my budget, but that's what I'm going to do. We don't respect our money from the standpoint of recognizing that is a gift. That is something that we're receiving. And what is something we can do, because we don't have this relationship established with our money, to know that, you know what? I can take part of this, pay some bills off, and I can still maybe treat my partner to a really nice dinner, or I can pay down some of my debt on my car. We just see this. We really disrespect money, and it boils down to, or comes down to the fact we have never really been taught to have a relationship with money. We've never been taught on how to enjoy it, how to embrace it when we receive it and be excited and ecstatic, and how to let it go. Hi, Erin. So we use money as an excuse, and it's unfortunate because those excuses affect our relationships with ourselves, our relationships with our kids, our coworkers, our spouses. Because it affects us in some form or fashion, again with that lack mentality, it affects our sexual relationships. It affects how we feel about ourselves and view ourselves as feminine goddesses. It affects our self-esteem, and it affects our confidence. And if you are, I was brought up, so to speak, in a very masculine dominated work environment. I worked with commercial real estate. I did a lot of finance and budget. And years ago, it was especially commercial real estate was all men. And the fact that I was successful as a woman was very different. And I felt so often I felt patronized, because it was like, well, yeah, she's doing really, really well, but she wouldn't do as well if we weren't helping her, or we weren't mentoring her. And so I always sensed that there was this imbalance, and it really fueled me, because I had so many masculine traits and such a dominant masculine persona for so many years, that it fueled me. I wanted to be competitive. I wanted to hustle. I wanted to, I'm going to show them. And I think in the work environment specifically, women still feel that way. There are in the corporate world, women only have a certain role. Women can only get to a certain level in management. They can only receive a certain amount of money. And you very seldom see women executives, women CEOs of large corporations. And applause for all the women that have taken the risks to get out of their comfort zone and make it to that level. But then it's still kind of viewed as, she's a CEO of this company, but she's scrutinized differently. And I don't mean to get off into a tangent on that, but again, this is just some of these things that we have been exposed to that we don't always recognize impacts how we feel and what our relationship is about our money. Because we saw our parents live paycheck to paycheck. Maybe you have lived paycheck to paycheck, and we've never really understood that there's a balance of to, sorry, there was a notification that came across and I was like, what? That there's a balance and there's a flow. And so what I want to really offer you is some ideas that, just looking at my notes here. How often going back to money, we use money as an excuse. We use money as a comparison. Now, perhaps our parents and our grandparents, and I know certainly when I was growing up, the comparison wasn't necessarily as broad as it is, and it's not as in your face as it is nowadays with the internet, with television, with media, with social media. And so it was much more, it was kind of kept in your community. And it was obvious amongst your community, but you kind of knew your place in that community and in your neighborhood and in your school that you might have gone to. Your dad went off to work and came home, and there was always stress, and he was always stressed when he came home. And the family meal, I can remember growing up, and it was like, my dad would come home for dinner, and we never really knew what the tone was going to be like at dinner, because it depended on how good of a day he had or didn't have. And that, in our minds, especially as little girls, we got the impression that work wasn't really a fun environment. Work was we always heard maybe our parents arguing about work and money, but we didn't really know. We had all these pieces floating around. We didn't really know what that meant. We just know that work was associated with unhappiness, and money was always something that was never enough, or money was there, but we didn't really know about it. And so it has always been something that has surrounded us. And when we were growing up, again, without social media, this is going to be different for our kids, but without social media and without all that comparison, you really just knew what you knew in your neighborhood. You didn't necessarily always know what it would be like to that you could earn $100,000 because people in your neighborhood or your community really weren't doing that. Or there was the one or two people with the house on the hill and they had that money because they owned, their family owned money. So we grew up with all this uncertainty, but we never recognized it. But it did affect our self-esteem. It did affect who we were. It was like, well, I can't try out to be homecoming queen because all the girls, and maybe you knew that they had money because they had all the fancy clothes and everything. They're the ones that are going to win. They're the ones that are popular because they have money. So again, that lack mentality. I don't have, they have, they get the praise, they get the awards, they get whatever. Because we have grown up, as simple as being good for Santa. If you're not a good girl for Santa, you're not going to get presents. So we still grew up with this concept of I better do the right thing, otherwise I don't get. So the lack mentality is deeply rooted in our upbringing. And it is something that when we can untangle it and recognize it and see how often we think that throughout our current days, we can start making that shift. And the way to make the shift is through appreciation. So we could simply say, something like, gosh, I really do want to go to the movies tonight, but I don't have the money. I really want to buy new shoes. I haven't bought new shoes for 6 months. I really want to buy them, but you know what? I need to really get my kids shoes, so I'm going to get them shoes. It's always this kind of, this or this, and feeling like we're making the right decision, but it feels restraining. It's like restrictive. So what I want to suggest is that we shift this and we really start recognizing how often we apply the lack mentality to whatever it is we're trying to manifest. So bringing this into a business context, because I know most of you are a woman entrepreneur, whether it be online or you have your own business, brick and mortar business. And we so often get caught up in the masculine concept of I need X number of sales at this number of rate because I need to make this money because I need to pay these expenses. The paradigm of putting together business plans and having strategic goals and things along those lines, it's really kind of breaking apart. It is important to be responsible, to know what your income is and know what your expenses are, but you don't need to be as locked into the abundance and how you receive it. So for example, let's say you know that your expenses every month are $5,000. It can be whatever, your house, your rent, your car, your business, cell phone, whatever it is. If you know that that's the amount of money that you need to bring in every month, that's awesome. But to sit there and then say, okay, so that means I need to attract 5 new one-on-one clients this month to make my bills, to pay my bills. That is throwing so much resistance into the a flow of abundance. Because the reality is, if we think of it from the standpoint of, I know my monthly expenses are $5,000. I desire to attract into my world $8,000 this month. And you stay with offerings that are aligned for you, something that lights you up, and you just continue to be open to receiving, open to receiving, open to receiving. It allows the universe to perhaps all of a sudden you're going to get a refund for something you didn't even know about for $4,000. It allows for your spouse to get a $4,000 bonus. So there's the $8,000. Did the $8,000 need to come from, I need 5 one-on-one clients? It's very restrictive. It really shuts our mind down and really comes from the need factor. So one of the key shifts, if I could impart any kind of wisdom, is to recognize when you're coming from that lack mentality. Recognize when you are putting an offer out there from the energy of needing. I need to sell 5 seats in this program because I need the money to pay my bills. rather than trusting, and there's all sorts of other techniques. Some I've explained in day 2 and day 1 of this series, but a lot of them are integrated into my programs as well. So there's lots of ways to really do this shift, but as a really quick, easy thing to do, just pay attention today. It's like, I really want to go get a cup of coffee. You're out running errands, it's Saturday, you're doing whatever. And then you recognize the fact that it's like, I really want to get a coffee. It's like, but money's a little tight this week and I need to go buy groceries, so I'm not gonna get the coffee. And I'm not saying, to go outside your budget. All I'm suggesting is you become aware of how often money comes into our thoughts. Money stops us from doing something. The flip side of that is to randomly purchase things and then be resentful of the fact you have credit card debt. So credit card debt is one of those things that looms over our head. Many of us have debt to pay off. And so it becomes, again, well, I need to work because I need to pay the debt. And the reality is, if you shifted your mindset about how you looked at your expenses and recognized that I'm so happy I had this credit card that I could buy that purse that I saw on sale, and not see that as debt as this big dark cloud that hangs over us because we incurred the debt to receive something. So we incurred the debt, we made the commitment, whether it be long term as far as I'm going to buy this house and pay it off over 30 years and enjoy the house in the meantime, or as simple as turning over your credit card and purchasing something that you want. We made that agreement that we were going to pay it back because we wanted whatever we were receiving. So taking that moment to really say, do I really, really, really need this purse? If I'm really trying to watch my finances, if I'm really trying to shift my mindset around my bills and how I treat them, maybe I don't really need that purse. So again, I'm talking really high level. I'm throwing a lot of ideas and lots of thoughts out there. So I know this might feel like a lot. And it is. But once we really start untangling and looking at some of these pieces and how they are all interwoven, we can start really getting some clarity, really diving in deep into where we've been hurt by money before, where we felt we were wronged by money. Maybe you went through a divorce, and again, divorces are ugly on so many levels. But it always impacts our mindset on money. And because many of us have left a marriage, many of us, fought for money, we fought for our kids, we fought for this. And, when you first got married, you were in a totally different mind space. And now all of a sudden, everything becomes this battle. Again, that's talking about money. There's money ties in there. And untangling some of our relationship with money and embracing our money. So how many of you, this is kind of a really fun thing to do. So this is another process or another thought that you can take away from today, is how many of you every payday get super, super excited about it? You see the money in your bank account, maybe you still get a check, and you actually just get super excited. Just get super excited. It could be the same amount that you get every 2 weeks, whatever. But do you absolutely positively turn the music on and for 10 minutes just absolutely get excited about the fact you got $2,000 today? Or is your scenario more like, oh, payday, yay, payday, and then the next day you sit down and it's like, yeah, well, payday came, so now I've got to pay these bills. And you sit down and it's like, ugh, I got to pay this and I got to pay this. Sometimes you're writing checks. Sometimes you're still doing it online, and then it's like, well, now I've got $200 left. What am I going to do? All that right there is huge as far as your money vibration and your ability to attract more money. Because if you're not celebrating it, you're seeing it as just like, I got this money, now I've got to pay these bills. It's such a negative drain on your energetic vibration to attract more into you. So if that is how you are currently in relationship with your money, the universe isn't exactly going to want to give you more, because you don't really like it. You kind of resent it, and you kind of like make it a chore, and oh my God, now I got to pay this. And we don't embrace it. We don't embody it. And the really quick fix for that is just start appreciating the fact that you received that $2,000. It's like, oh my gosh, I got a paycheck today. I showed up for work. I did what I was supposed to do. I may not absolutely love my job, but I love the fact that I get this $2,000 every 2 weeks. And I love the fact that I can actually take care of some of these bills. And yesterday I talked, in day 2, I talked about some really fun money rituals on how to make payments and incorporate sort of more of that vibration and ritual around paying bills and earning money. But I wanted to bring that up again today because that is also a really easy fix for you. And here's another really, really simple, easy talk about money and your vibrations. Where do you keep your money? So I know nowadays we very seldom touch currency. We really don't often. Everything is credit cards, everything is our phone, everything is online. We very seldom have that cash. But your credit cards and the currency you have, what does it look like? Is it stuffed into a wallet with all the receipts and all of this and all that, and it's just something like, oh, I got to make sure I have my wallet? Or is it actually kind of in your wallet, nice and neat, and you make sure the bills are all facing the right way, and you make sure your credit cards are where they're supposed to be, and you've kind of like, and you have a nice wallet? Is that something? Because again, it's appreciation for what I have. It's respecting the money. It's respecting the abundance. And that is a natural way for you to start receiving more, is appreciating and respecting the money that you have. And I'll throw this other quick one out, is to look at your money, look at your bank account every day. Every day. Look at your bank account. Have a cup of coffee. Make it part of your morning routine. How much money do you have in your bank today? And just appreciate it. Don't look at it and say, ugh, I still only have that $200 there. Open the online account or open your checkbook, whatever your system is, and go, oh my God, I got $200. It's still there. I'm so excited. I have $200 in the bank today. And this is one of the fun things, and it comes from Abraham Hicks, who really has done just so much when it comes to abundance and all the universal laws, is pretend, and you could do this in reality, go get a $100 bill, put it in your wallet, all nice and neat. And maybe you don't have anything to do for 3 hours, and you want to just do something fun and mindless and be playful and stay in that vibe of happiness and joy, and know that you have the $100 in your bank account, in your wallet. And maybe go into stores that you wouldn't normally go to, because we've decided, well, I can't shop at Nordstrom's because I can't afford anything there. Again, lack mentality. Who says you can't afford anything in there? That's just something we've come up with. What if you walked into Nordstrom or whatever the expensive store is in your area, know you have $100 you could spend on anything, and then walk around and say, wow, that's a super awesome sweater. I could buy that sweater. And then you find something else. And you simply walk around the store with this concept of, what if? What if I just decided to buy that sweater? It's $100. I would not normally spend $100 on the sweater, but today I can do whatever I want. What if I bought it? And then imagine how you would feel. So you take that sweater and you go in the dressing room and you try it on. What does a $100 sweater feel like? And how do you feel? That right there, it allows you to shift your mindset and remember what that feeling is like. If you've put that sweater on and it's like, oh my God, I'm so excited. This is like a super hot sweater. It's a great quality. I'm not buying it at Target, whatever it is. And recognize the fact that, wow, this is a super cool sweater. I like this. How does it change your attitude? How does it change your confidence? How are you standing right there in the dressing room? How did it all of a sudden shift your mindset? And remember that. Take the sweater off, hang it back up, and now walk back out into the store and spend that $100 again. Maybe you decide to go over to the jewelry counter. It's like, you know what? I really like that ring. Try it on. It really sounds maybe a little bit silly, but why not have some fun? Why not make it playful? Because this is how we shift our mindset. This is how we get out of our comfort zone. This is how we understand what it is like to have wealth, to attract money, and be able to embrace and embody the feeling of, what does a wealthy woman, how does she feel? How would I feel? I want to grow my business. I want to earn 5-figure incomes every month. What's that woman do? And go embody her. Figure out what it feels like in your body. How would you stand? Would you stand up taller? Would you be wearing different shoes? That's another fun thing to do, is put on different shoes. Instead of, wearing tennis shoes on a Saturday, get dressed up. It's fun. Like I said, I can go on and on and on and on, and I think I've already gotten off the topic a little bit of untangling our money stories. The bottom line is, and I'm going to give you 3 journal prompts that you can do, that if you really want to start diving into some of this, and just becoming aware. Because what I have found to be true is that things come up for us in our life when it is time for us to look at them. So we know intuitively what it is that's holding us back. We know intuitively what our money blocks are and why our business isn't growing. We just are choosing to try to find something else to be the reason, so that we don't have to do the deep inner work. We don't have to get into the shadows. Going into the shadows is scary, but the reality is, the sooner that you can lead yourself through some of this work, the quicker you're going to receive everything it is you desire. Because whatever it is you desire, the lifestyle, the money, the travel, it's all there waiting for you. So one of the journal prompts that will just kind of get you started and see where this goes, see where your spirit guides lead you, see where your intuition leads you, is, what was your life around money growing up? What do you remember hearing about money? How old were you when you first recognized that money was somehow a factor? And also, what did your parents teach you about money? Now, this doesn't mean that they sat you down and said, here's a savings account, here's this. But what did they teach you? Or more importantly, what did they not teach you? And it could be just that they taught you that you don't talk about it. It could be that your experience was that every time money was talked about, there was an argument. So why would we in our marriages, want to bring up the subject of money? Because we remember, it's in our subconscious that when I saw my mom ask my dad about money, there was always an argument and yelling and screaming. So now I'm married. I know I want to talk about the money, but I'm remembering that if I talk to my husband about the money, there's going to be an argument. So we stay safe. We avoid pain. Fear is an indicator that we might get an answer we don't want to hear. So that's one of the prompts. What was your life like around money growing up, and what did you learn about money from your parents? Another one that you can do is, what has your relationship been with money in the last 5 to 10 years? This is especially important if you've gone through a divorce, or lost a job, or retired, or gotten married and quit your job. What is your relationship with money in the last 5 to 10 years? How have you viewed money? How has money impacted you? Did you loan money to a friend and never get that back? Did you receive an inheritance, and how did you choose to use the inheritance? So just look back, maybe even 5 years. It just depends on your life experience. But just see when you've gotten, inheritance, when you've gotten tax returns, when you've gotten a bonus, when you've gotten a raise, when you've tried to, when you've left your 9 to 5 and wanted to expand your online business. How has money impacted you? How has it impacted your decisions? And the third one is, how would you feel around money today if you knew that you were bringing in whatever your desired income is, and that your debt was either paid off or had a plan to be paid off, and that you still had the abundance that you desire? So that you knew that if you wanted to go on vacation, you could go. And you didn't have to necessarily calculate it out and say, we've got to save $50 from groceries every week for us to go on that vacation in December. How would you feel if you knew that today you could just book a trip for your family, for yourself, for your partner in December, and just know that the money's there for that? How would that change how you show up? So those are some of the things that I really wanted to just, again, I can go on and on and on. There's each of these kind of topics that I touched upon: the generational, how we grew up as far as going to college, our relationship with money in our marriages, debt, finances, current day, our relationship with money, how we make money decisions. All of those things could easily be topics, for on their own. I just want to check and see. Perfect. So we are good with timing, and I hope that this, at least, my whole purpose in doing these workshops is to really be able to plant some seeds, to stir up that soil that has been kind of sitting there, that there's things that you need to kind of take a look at, but you've been putting off and putting off. Because I guarantee you, if you are looking to grow your business, if you are looking to attract clients that are your soulmate clients, if you are looking to attract paid in full clients, or to start a new program, or sell a new product, or escalate in your network marketing company, and you're finding that you're doing all the things but you're still not getting there, a lot of this is really going to be reflective and looking at your beliefs around money to begin with. And I will be announcing, maybe tomorrow, but probably Monday, a new program that I have created that really is going to allow you to look at money and wealth from a different perspective. It's going to be a little bit of looking at your money blueprint, but it's also going to give you some practical ways that you can set up your business, some practical ways you can work with an accountant, and some practical ways that you can have these difficult money conversations in your current relationship, and help you break through and step into being in charge of your money, and recognizing that money is energy. That's all it is. Money is just energy. And once you get rid of the limiting beliefs, once you eliminate those and untangle them and unpack them, you're opening the spigots of flow. Because right now you're kind of restricting them. So it's just dripping in. We want it to flow. And more importantly, I want you to love your relationship with money. So look for those details coming up. If you're watching the replay of this, I would love to know how this may have impacted you. Did it stir up anything for you? And where are you finding your current money blocks are? Comment below, and I will be glad to answer your questions. And go ahead and share this video with someone if you know that they need this information. And I thank you all for being here. Bye.